Your insiders are Chris Johnston, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger. John Klingberg is a name that, frankly, I think a lot of people had forgotten about. Dregs hadn't played in 14-plus months, but suddenly he's back and a lot of interest?
Yeah, there's a lot of interest, but they've narrowed the field a little bit. I would say that 5 to 7 teams now in the mix for the return of the veteran right-shot defenseman. And let's just remind hockey fans that John Klingberg had hip resurfacing surgery in fall of 2023. The same surgery that Patrick Kane had, the same surgery Jesse Puljujarvi had. It's been a long road of recovery, but in the last couple of weeks, he's really amped it up. He's been skating on a daily basis. He feels good, so the next step in his process is to identify the team that he wants to play with, sign a contract at least for the remainder of the year, and then push it forward. So again, 5 to 7 teams basically on the cut line right now that Klingberg is going to have to make a decision on. I'd put the front runners as the Toronto Maple Leafs, honorable mention going to the Edmonton Oilers and the Ottawa Senators in that group. But if it isn't Toronto, then likely Edmonton. So we'll see how it plays out.
And the Vancouver Canucks dominating the headlines lately with the whole JT Miller and Elias Pettersson situation. Likely tough on both of those guys, tough on the entire team. But until a deal happens, CJ, how does it affect the entire trade market?
Well, there's certainly a sense out there, I'd say, that this is holding things up. And, that makes some sense. We're talking about significant players here. And, as Vancouver continues to work through its options, according to the sources I talked to, there's a sense league-wide that JT Miller is the more likely of the two players to be moved. Now, JT Miller has a no-movement clause. None of this has been his idea. You talk about it being tough on the players and the people involved. But, I think the teams that have been around this have a sense that if it's the right situation, he's likely to move on. And we might not see much action otherwise league-wide until something happens here at Vancouver, because this is such a big domino that's out there that's kind of teetering but hasn't fallen yet. And obviously this could still take some time before something happens.
It's that time of year where, look, there's a lot of rumors out there and some end up being substantiated. And then you get some guys' names thrown out there that the team really has no interest in trading. At least they say they don't. Is that the case with Rasmus Andersson in Calgary, Pierre?
Yeah, the Flames have no interest in trading him point blank, and they're a little confused as to why they're getting calls from other teams checking in on his availability. And what GM Craig Conroy has told other teams is, we're not interested in trading Rasmus Andersson. He's not a player on an expiring deal. The Flames are in a playoff race, and in fact, the Flames hope to extend Rasmus Andersson potentially this summer when he's allowed to extend 1 year out. That may or may not happen, but for now, he's a Calgary Flame, and the Flames, they don't want to tear it down. They want to keep some key veterans around as they continue to transition their roster, and Andersson is one of those players that the Flames want to be part of that.
Well, sticking with another defenseman in the West, the Los Angeles Kings are eager to get Drew Doughty back into the fold. Now, again, a bit of a history lesson here. Be mindful of the reality that he had ankle surgery to repair a broken ankle from the preseason, and he has been progressing incredibly well to a point where we know he's been skating on his own, he's been out there, but he is expected to rejoin the Los Angeles Kings on ice in a non-contact sweater as early as next week. Now, if all goes according to plan, the Kings are hopeful that Drew Doughty could make his way back into their lineup before the Four Nations face-off around February 10th. Imagine if there's an injury to Team Canada's blue line. He'd certainly be on Canadian management's radar.
The Dallas Stars lost the other night in Ottawa, but still on a remarkable run, 8-1-1 in their last 10. And Pierre, are they in great position to make some moves at the deadline if they desire?
The Dallas Stars the last few years have not been shy to add at the deadline. A year ago, Jim Nill traded for Chris Tanev, as we remember. But now they have cap flexibility, so watch out. I think the Stars, a true cup contender, could add both a top 6 forward and a top 4 defenseman before the March 7th trade deadline. But for now, they're trying to be patient because there are certain needs that could develop that they haven't even identified yet based on injuries. Tyler Seguin's $9.85 million cap hit is not yet on LTI. The Stars continue to carry him right now on their cap. They're trying to accrue cap space, and then eventually they will probably put him on LTI, and they will have big-time flexibility to add, and that is indeed the plan.
CJ Drakes was talking about, Doughty coming on maybe if there's an injury on Team Canada. Boy, there'd be a long list of guys if there's injuries in any position on Team Canada, because it was like all these guys who got snubbed at the exact same moment got hot when they found out they'd gotten snubbed.
Exactly. You're looking at the top 8 goal scorers since December 2nd, which is the date Team Canada's management picked the team, put in the roster officially, are all players that weren't part of that list. And so you look at guys like Mark Scheifele, Zach Hyman, John Tavares, Jordan Kyrou. I mean, all these names are in the mix, of course, for original selection. But this is why Hockey Canada refused at that time to say to someone, hey, look, you're the next man up, because they wanted to watch what happened since. And right now, knock wood, everything looks good injury-wise for Team Canada. But obviously, if a forward spot opens up in the next 4 weeks here, they have some pretty hot shooters out there to choose from.
Yeah, if the Four Nations was still like that previous event where they had the U20, the Young Guns team and the Europe team, you could have a snub team, which would be fascinating to watch.